What would you do if your trusted neighbor stole the house you'd been saving for your entire life? Marcus was about to find out exactly how far he'd go for justice. For 3 years, you'd been renting a small apartment in Maple Grove, saving every penny for a down payment on your dream home. Your neighbor Vincent seemed like the perfect ally when you first moved in. He'd lived in the neighborhood for 15 years, knew everyone, and always had advice about the local real estate market. You'd spend Saturday mornings chatting over the fence about properties and neighborhoods. When a beautiful craftsman house went up for sale 3 blocks away, you knew immediately it was the one. 4 bedrooms, original woodwork, a garden that needed love. It was everything you'd been dreaming about. You could already picture yourself living there. You rushed to tell Vincent the good news, and he seemed genuinely excited for you. He even offered to introduce you to his realtor friend Diane, who he said could help you navigate the competitive bidding process. You felt grateful to have such a supportive neighbor. Diane seemed professional and knowledgeable when Vincent introduced you to. She walked you through the house, pointing out all its best features and some concerns about the foundation and electrical work. You trusted her expertise completely. Diane advised you to offer below asking price because of those repair issues she'd mentioned. It seemed like smart strategy. Why pay more than necessary? You submitted your offer and waited anxiously for a response. 3 days later, Diane called with disappointing news. The sellers had accepted another offer that came in higher. You were crushed but tried to stay optimistic. The right house would come along eventually. Then Vincent stopped answering your texts and avoided you in the driveway. When you finally caught him getting his mail, he seemed uncomfortable and rushed away. Something felt wrong, but you couldn't figure out what. 2 weeks later, you saw a moving truck at the craftsman house. Your heart sank as you watched furniture being unloaded. Someone was moving into your dream home. You decided to walk over and meet the new owners. That's when you saw him. Vincent was directing the movers, carrying boxes into the house like he owned it. Because he did. Your trusted neighbor had bought the house you wanted. The betrayal hit you like a physical blow. All those conversations, all that advice, the realtor recommendation, it had all been strategic. But why would he tell you to bid low if he was planning to buy it himself? You couldn't let it go. You started digging into property records at the county assessor's office. What you discovered made everything click into place. Vincent had submitted his offer the same day as yours, at full asking price, while Diane convinced you to go lower. Diane wasn't just Vincent's realtor friend. According to her business registration, she was his sister-in-law. They'd conspired together to eliminate your competition and get him the house. Your neighbor had played you perfectly. You were angry, but you forced yourself to think strategically. Vincent had shown you how effective patience and planning could be. Now it was your turn to play the long game. You started by being the friendliest neighbor imaginable. You congratulated Vincent on his new home and even brought over a housewarming gift. He seemed relieved that you weren't angry. He probably thought he'd gotten away with it completely. That's exactly what you wanted him to think. You befriended Rachel, the city's new code enforcement officer, at a community meeting. She was young, enthusiastic about her job, and very interested in making sure all properties met current building standards. You mentioned you'd noticed some concerning things around the neighborhood. Here's something Vincent didn't know about that beautiful craftsman house. The previous owners had done extensive renovations without pulling proper permits. The unpermitted work included electrical upgrades, bathroom remodels, and a converted attic space. You'd discovered this in your research. You casually mentioned to Rachel that you'd heard rumors about unpermitted work in some of the older homes nearby. She thanked you for being a concerned citizen and said she'd look into it. Code enforcement took violations very seriously in your city. 3 weeks later, Vincent received a notice of code violations. The city had inspected his property and found thousands of dollars worth of unpermitted work. He had 60 days to either obtain retroactive permits or restore the property to its previous condition. Either option would be expensive. But the problems didn't stop there. Obtaining retroactive permits meant the work had to meet current building codes, not the codes from when it was done. The electrical panel needed upgrading. The bathroom plumbing wasn't up to standard. The attic conversion was a fire hazard. You watched Vincent's stress mount over the following months. Contractors came and went. The beautiful house became a construction zone. You'd see him on his phone, clearly arguing about costs and timelines. Every conversation looked more heated than the last. Then you made your next move. You'd been watching the market carefully, and property values in the neighborhood were climbing. You contacted a different realtor and mentioned you were interested in the Craftsman house if the owner ever wanted to sell. Your realtor reached out to Vincent. Vincent was drowning in renovation costs and wanted out. The house that was supposed to be his prize had become his nightmare. But here's the beautiful part. Because of all the code violations and ongoing construction, he couldn't get his asking price. The house was worth less now than when he'd bought it. You offered him $70,000 less than he'd paid. With his renovation costs, he'd lose over $100,000 on the deal. Vincent tried to negotiate, but you knew he was desperate. Construction loans were bleeding him dry, and the city was pressuring him to complete the work. 3 months after you'd discovered his betrayal, Vincent accepted your offer. You'd saved enough for a larger down payment by now, and with his reduced price, you could afford the renovations properly. Everything he'd schemed for was finally yours. The day you got the keys, Vincent couldn't even look at you. He knew exactly what had happened, but he couldn't prove anything. You'd simply been a concerned citizen reporting code violations and a buyer making a fair market offer. Everything completely legal. You hired contractors to complete the renovation work properly. Unlike Vincent, you pulled all the right permits and made sure everything exceeded code. The house was even more beautiful than you'd imagined once it was finished correctly. Vincent moved across town shortly after. You heard through neighborhood gossip that he'd lost a significant amount of money on the whole deal and that his wife was furious about the financial mess. Diane apparently stopped speaking to him too when she found out how badly it had gone. 6 months after moving in, you hosted a neighborhood barbecue in your beautiful garden. Everyone commented on how lucky you were to have gotten such a perfect house. You smiled and thanked them, never mentioning the careful planning it had required. The best revenge isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's patient and precise, turning someone's own tactics against them. Vincent taught you that manipulation could win in the short term, but you taught him that karma works even better when you help it along. You never spoke to Vincent about what really happened, and you never had to. Every time he drove past your house, he knew. He'd tried to steal your dream, and instead he'd lost everything while you ended up with exactly what you wanted. That knowledge was revenge enough. Now you live in your dream home, the one you'd fought for and won through patience and strategy. Vincent's greed cost him far more than money. It cost him his reputation, his marriage's stability, and his peace of mind. Sometimes the best revenge is simply taking back what should have been yours all along. Have you ever had a neighbor betray your trust?